Hello and welcome to Encounter Roleplay. My name is Grant Ellis, and you might remember me from such streams as Encounter Roleplay. To those of you watching live on Twitch, and if you're watching on YouTube, please join us every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern for the live show. Today we are playing episode 5 of Unrestful Hearts in the Garden of Glory. Let's go around to the casting crew and figure out who we are and who we're playing. My name's Grant Ellis, and I'm responsible for most of these shenanigans. And I may or may not be playing every character that is not portrayed by one of the following PCs. Let's go around. So how you doing tonight, Jess Burst of Hope?
I'm fantastic. Glad to be here. Tonight, I play Sir Catalin de Wolf, the captain. And
also joining us is, so we have J1 and J2, or Jess and Joe. Joe.
Indeed. Yes. Normally I am Jess. Here I am Joe because we have another Jess in the room and I happen to have a good nickname. I am Little Cup of Joe. I will be playing Celtriste du Raven, a Raven Knight who has no house. Assuming my connection holds stable and the ports are open.
The ports. All ports tonight. Also joining us tonight, returning is Chev Antimony. Poisel, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I am Poisel, or at a Poisel on various things. I'll be playing Chev Antimony, formerly the Dragon. Currently, we don't know where Chev Antimony's loyalties lie. But we'll see. We'll see.
We've got... That's what I love about this game. It seems like everyone's playing with a deck of cards. Some cards are facing out, some cards are inward. And we're probably mixing up decks where we've mixed up a standard deck of playing cards, a set of Magic the Gathering cards circa 1993, and there's at least 5 Pokemon that I've seen in the 4 weeks that we've played so far. This is very fun. Before we begin today's show, I'll remind you guys that we're sponsored by Fantasy Grounds, our virtual tabletop of choice. All of the beautiful maps and roles you see tonight are using Fantasy Grounds, which you can try for free at fantasygrounds.com. I'm horrible at reads. You can also get all your miniatures from Wayland Games. Go to waylandgames.co.uk and get yourself a huge range of D&D, Warhammer, and 40k minis for 20% off. This week, check out our sponsor, Dice Envy, who have an amazing subscription service where you can get cool new dice every month. Starting at just $5, you have access to limited run dice delivered to your door. Join us at diceenvy.com. You can also support the show by retweeting the tweet, which should be here. Aha! It worked. I'll remind you how you can interact with today's games. You can donate the game to Impact, giving our players crit successes on their die rolls, forcing tarot readings, which will muck up the scenes, as well as other specialities, such as giving our knights really cool mounts, like Glittermane, who won't be with us tonight. Rest in peace, Glittermane. Makes it sound like the horse is dead.
I was like, Glittermane died?
They were an old horse. No, Glittermane is alive. Sorry.
We're already starting off so dark.
Well, that's what I get if I drink an energy drink before the show. I go to a very dark place. Also, if you love a moment during the show, please clip it on Twitch, and we'll be using these in our highlight reels and on Twitter. Without any further ado, let's begin the show. So when we last left off on Unrestful Hearts in the Garden of Glory, an assassin's bolt landed in Sir Daniel, who is not with us tonight's chest, striking them nearly fatally. Chev Orphelia of House Lion leapt to their defense and protected them, chasing the assassin, Alicinda the Raven's Blade, through the night. Chev Orphelia stopped, returned, and tended to the nearly slain Sir Daniel. Seeking to broker peace between the wooden knights the Golden Wood, Sir Catalin and Chev Antimony have been politicking, working to negotiate a situation in which the leaders of the Wood would be willing to meet with the Kingdom of the Crown. In doing so, they've been carting around, escorting, and protecting young Jolyon, the boy king, who is guarded by Ser Helena, who is a member of the wolf family. A little bit about how the game works for those of you that are new to the show. This is a storytelling game in which we take turns weaving the narrative. Part of the game is narrative, part of the game is adventure-based. There's still dice, there's still uncertain outcome to events where the fiction dictates it. And we are introducing 2 new mechanics tonight. One is what we call the relationship scene engine, where each player will have the opportunity to frame scenes and ask questions, and we work to answer those questions through role play. The same as you do in a game of Call of Cthulhu, Dungeons & Dragons, Warhammer, etc., except the mechanics a little different. But it's the exact same idea. Role-playing is a conversation, and you work to find answers through the conversation that you have. Tonight's first scene will be set by myself, and I'm going to set it. And I'd very much like to find out what happened to our diplomats, Diana Sidoros, Epictetus, who else was part of that? And the squire, Beatrice.
Yes.
One of the lost ones. So they have not yet returned to court, which was making Sir Daniel and Chev Orphelia very, very anxious because they should have returned by that time. However, I believe that they were waylaid by bandits on the road. So the scene that I want to set with the stakes is either the squires, the diplomats, whatever we call them, get back to capital, or they do not. And I believe the question is, did they survive their journey? Did they survive the negotiation? Now, this is going to be a societal interaction. So there are things out there in the world, and one of the knights is going to interact with it. I would like, if they consent, Ser Triste to be the knight that interacts. So as they're traveling, they're ambushed by bandits. Out comes the raven.
That's what I was thinking as well. I think that sounds very narratively interesting.
Seems appropriate.
It seems appropriate. So I think the foreground of what is occurring is the advent and return of the raven. I think the background is really the idea that there are squires and diplomats and they're traveling the roads. And I think really what this scene is about isn't even so much... the stakes are whether or not the squires make it there or not. They live or they die. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they become raven apostles. But the question is, what is the raven's relationship to those that support the crown? I think that's the question we're really trying to answer. We want to learn a little bit more about this knight, who they are, the squire that follows them. So the conflicts in this scene is the bandits. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about these bandits and who they are. And anyone can add to this. These bandits are West folk, like from years prior. The Emerald West, I've decided it's called. There is a green country to the west. And it is a nation defined based upon its emerald beauty. But these West folk came and served as mercenaries on the Dragon Army. They fought in a war, staged a coup in which they tried to place a dragon queen on the throne. And essentially, those that survived and were not captured or sent out of the country from the Dragon Army have taken to the roads. They're trying to prey upon those who travel them. And really, it's just the way they survive in this day and age. They have some small communities off the grid, but they are no doubt a problem, and they are a new problem that has emerged. So that is the essential core of the scene. A Raven Knight appears. The diplomats either survive or they don't, and we really want to play this scene to learn a bit about the Raven. Now, any of us who are outside of the scene can play any of the NPCs. So, Sir Cataline, do you want to be Beatrice, Epictetus, or Diana Sidoros?
The dinosaur.
T-Rex.
Dinosaur.
I would draw my soul. My arms were so tiny.
Yes.
Oh God. Oh boy.
Oh no, that went to a silly place.
This is fine.
And Poisel, who would you like to play?
I'm torn because I'd really like Epictetus, who is like the martial squire's who's been featured a bit in the prior year, so they have a bit of a narrative backing. But then there's also my new squire, Beatrice, the lost one, and I don't know. I think I'll play Beatrice to flesh them out a little bit more.
They did leap to your knight's defense during that passionate and heated debate last week. When they attacked your house, they spoke up. They have no house. I like that.
Yes.
I like Beatrice.
Yes. Because Beatrice doesn't have a house either.
And I will play the other characters, so Epictetus, any other squires, as well as the bandits. So here's how the scene is set. Since this is a game about the players and not necessarily the background, so we'll talk to the other players to sort of set the scene. How perilous is it that the West folk are going to overtake and capture these diplomats? Have they just stumbled upon them? Are you in the heat of battle? Is there a chase going on? How do you see this? This is a question for Jet's Burst of Hope and Poisel.
I gotta imagine that one of these house dragon pseudo people are at least semi-observant on the road. So it'd be more of a evasion or trying to set ourselves up. So I think they're trying to ambush us. We probably know they're trying to ambush us.
So maybe a little bit of a chase where we're trying
Indeed.
to find better ground.
I think so.
All right, so it's
like
a
that.
chase. So currently, the way this positioning is going to be set is... so thank you, Jorian Drake, for the donation, the generous donation of 20 pounds. That's going to provide a pet. And I believe that pet is going to be... We'll check your messaging and figure out, make sure we disseminate. I'd love Chev Antimony to get a dog. I think they need a dog.
Oh.
Let it be the dog from Jim Henson's Storytellers. Okay, give me your last biscuit.
Sign me up for that good content.
Yes. So, what's the weather like during this chase? Joe, why don't you set sort of the weather?
Sure. Why don't we go full extra? And it's maybe not yet dark and stormy, but it's dark and about to be stormy, so that we might have a good foreboding break of the storm as they start to fight.
Yes, and so what I'm going to do is sorry, I'm breaking my illegal game board. I'm going to set it so it's we're kind of at a sunset, but the dark clouds have sort of caught it. I don't know if you've ever seen the dark clouds come in and they block out the sun. And there's kind of this eerie dim. Are we running through woods? Are we across wide open plains? Is it cliffy? Are we across the beach? How do you picture this?
I think they might be kind of in a forested area, but it's more a little bit on the mountainous side, so it's very uneven sort of ground. A good place for an ambush, probably.
Yes. Well, so a winter wolf. It's gonna go to it's Farkas, a pet wolf, a winter wolf for Cataline de Wolf. It's snow white furred with icy blue eyes. No, I like that. The only thing that I would modify with it is it always obeys her commands. It's a good floof. It's a good floof dog.
It's a good doggo.
Best floof.
I'm going to play a tarot card as we go into the scene. We might do those between scenes. So let's hold on to that. Because I feel the scene is set. So, all right. So the scene begins. There is a chase underway. Epictetus and Piedros and Dionysidoros have found themselves. There has been a rock slide that is now blocking their path. They're going to have to either go around or go over or rappel down the cliff the best they can. They are currently burdened with supplies from the travel. They are all seasoned. They've adventured for several years. I think each of them, I need to put points next to their names because they have gone on adventures. And it is
probably the least seasoned of them. Yeah.
So, as the bandits are closing in, and they're getting close, they're not quite yet there. I'm going to allow Certrice to decide. You can either come in the middle between the bandits and the diplomats. You can appear at the top of the rock slide when maybe you were responsible for it. Who knows? Maybe you were the bandit all along. Maybe you're merry men.
Yes, indeed.
Or you can come up.
Me.
Or you can come up flanking a little later from the bandits. How would you like to do this?
I think the Raven is going to watch how this plays out just for a little bit. If it looks at any point like the squires and the diplomats are struggling, the Raven is going to interpose and start attacking the bandits and take a few of them out.
All right.
Without announcement.
Oof.
Just gonna get in there and start wrecking people.
Is Christina with you? Is Christina with you?
Definitely.
Okay.
If she ends up yelling her head off and announcing their arrival like a good hero, that's up to her.
Raving the banner, sliding down the hill, getting between.
Yeah. Yes.
Can I have everybody's attention, please? Everyone stops. Eyes widened. Announcing Assassin's Bolt. The one and only Assassin's Bolt. I got this. Yes. All right.
The Darkwing Duck.
The Darkwing Duck.
Who is the terror that flaps dangerous.
In the night? I gotta be careful because every now and then people say Darkwing Duck, and then I slip into Count Duckula. I'm like,
oh God.
No.
Also
all
good,
right.
But not the same.
No, not at all. So, not at all. All right. Speaking to Piedros, who is identified as the leader of this group by the West folk, hand over your belongings and make your way, and we'll let you live. We promise not to mark you. And look at one who has, it looks like a heated brand. It's kind of like a branding iron that they're prepared to stick you with. And this is what they've announced. And they announced it to Piedros. How do you respond?
Piedros squares up a little bit with the other squires and places his hand upon the sword at his hip. He hasn't drawn it yet, but says, you stand in the way of the entourage of the crown. We are here on business. You do not wish to continue along this course of action. I recommend returning from whence you came.
The interesting thing about whence we came, they kind of crack their knuckles and sort of step in. It starts to darken as the clouds completely block out the sun. Is their nation, and they identify you as a lost one, kind of point over at the two dragons, invaded ours, took what belonged to us. We're simply returning the favor. Hammurabi style. And they draw weapons and they close in. Now, at this point, the Raven has an opportunity to intervene. Do they?
I think so. And I think they have probably been watching quietly from one side and would have directed Crestina to hold back, even if she was raring to jump in, as I imagine she probably was.
Arms down to the side, starts twitching, ready to explode like a rocket.
Yeah. It's like, no, not yet. And they will draw their hand and a half sword and just step out and step immediately between the bandit and Beatrice.
As you step between, as you're
in a fight.
Oof. Yeah. So as you speak, is your goal to intimidate them and prevent them from conflict without going sword to sword, or simply just drawing your sword enough to scare them away? So essentially what I'm asking is, would you like to roll a die here? If you are successful, there's a very good chance they break and run. If you're not successful, they might engage in combat, but they might do so at a disadvantage. So there's degrees to this. They might run away. Sure. They might engage in combat. It's your choice.
The goal is to intimidate them. The idea, hopefully we can make them go away without having it come to a fight. But if it has to come to a fight, then so be it.
Okay. So in the rules, here's how we resolve actions. So we determine the difficulty. These bandits are a difficulty of 7, essentially. They're not the most difficult thing, but they are pretty difficult, which means if we were to just roll a dice straight, we need a 7 or higher.
Okay.
We decide whether or not you have any attractive qualities that apply here. So these are knights are built up to attractive qualities. I'm going to explain to the audience. Mm-hmm. Knight has at least 3, and these attractive qualities give them bonuses to their die rolls.
Cool. So, out of my attractive qualities, I don't know if any of them in particular.
Probably not. Do you want to spend any points? You could spend Valor or Dashing from your adventuring pool, which would help you. And you can spend up to 3 points.
Sure. I'll drop a point from Valor, I think.
Okay. Yes. And so you now have a +1, and now I decide whether or not any house tenants engage. Raven Knights attempting to intimidate people on the road is definitely engaging. Raven's not a house; it's an idea. You are a knight driven from your house, and in this situation, yes, you most definitely get a positive modifier intervening on the road. Do you have any legendary qualities? Any tags that you can spin?
I do not, because I'm new.
Okay.
You were supposed to give him one.
Yeah, Tris has no legendary qualities yet.
Yeah.
Unknown.
Unknown.
Yes. So
you
now
have
you
a
can
legendary quality in my heart.
So now you can roll a 10-sided die and add. You can roll a 10-sided die and add 2 to the result.
All right. Here we go. Woo.
Yeah. So
I'm scary.
It's overwhelmingly successful. They're preparing to break and run. And so, in this situation, the Raven, they all say, and they kind of look around, and they kind of notice as you move, it almost appears as if you're not even touching the ground. There's kind of a ghostly quality to your walk. And they almost kneel in respect as the sword's drawn. They ask you to forgive them their faults. They're beseeching you as if you are an angelic force almost. They're superstitious, and they ask what can they give as compensation in this situation so that they are not haunted. One of them's crying a little, and he kind of gets a side eye from the others. They're like, "Don't cry." She's an angel.
Like, jeez, dude.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Oh, no. I think the raven lowers their sword slowly and only slightly. Go quietly. Let them pass. That is all I ask.
They literally interpret you saying "go quietly" as they all do this like ridiculous sneak walk away, and like they're putting their fingers over their mouths, and like they leave.
Quietly and quickly.
They start scampering away, not looking behind. And so at this point, Epictetus, Beatrice, and the other one, Dionysidoros, are left with the Raven, and now we have the opportunity to interact with them. Epictetus, who had their hand ready on their sword, let's kind of decide how we want to position. What do we think of that? Was that the most impressive display we had seen? Who do they remind us of? This is the question.
It is worth noting also that the Raven is fully hooded and cloaked, and you can't see their face. They have like a mask covering the lower half.
Super assassin mode.
Super assassin mode and like feathered mantle and all of this nonsense.
Jesus, so extra. I love it.
I think.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say Beatrice gets closer to the other two, as if to like group up with them in a more defensive position. Like I don't know who this person in black is, but they don't see. While they came seemingly to our aid, that does not mean they are here in friendship.
Dionysidoros will push up their glasses and look to their fellow traveling buddies and just look at the shadow and be like, "Wow, that was very overwhelmingly shadowy and helpful. Thank you."
Christina's like running like full speed. Oh my gosh, that was awesome! I mean, yes, it was. I remember you from the ball. Christina says and kind of points at Beatrice.
Oh yes,
you. You are the Raven and the Raven's compatriot. You came to the ball and you danced and you made quite a scene.
So much presents! Oh my gosh!
I'll say, I am the Raven Squire. Christina kind of looks up with dignity as it starts to rain. However, we should probably get out of here and find some place that's dry. These rocks aren't going to be safe as the rain comes down. Shall we provide shelter to them? Their trees?
We may as well. It's going to be too dangerous to get on from here. Come, follow me. And they will start walking. Leading them on towards another path to wherever they've probably been taking shelter lately.
And Christina kind of like turns and gives you all that like, aren't they so cool? Look, and like goes and starts following.
Best hype man.
I think that's a good place to end that scene. Yeah. And it was my scene that I set. And here's some things we learned about it. The Raven is frightening and can scare away an army without drawing their sword, or rather can scare away a large number of people. 2, they have an admirer who has a bit of an over-infatuation with them, or the idea of them. 3rd, I think we learned that they are somewhat compassionate and willing to take care of the less fortunate and has a certain sense of justice. What's anything else that we learned, as well as these may or may not be wrong. Joe will always have the final say because it's their character. But these are just observations from playing through the scene.
It seems like we learned that these West folk have some Raven-centric superstitions.
Yeah.
Like some real strong ones, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Well, ravens often are prophetic omens, and the West folk would rather not know what's in the future for them.
Yeah.
Also, many have been slain by knights around here. There's a difference between a knight and a squire. As you can see between Christina and Sir Trist.
Yes. We've learned Christina is a very excitable cinnamon roll.
So little doughy, stick her back in the oven. No.
She's fine.
So Kathleen, did you learn anything about the Raven from that scene?
They have clear intentions, and like you said, the compassion is there, though I'm wondering where it derives from. Like
the
what's
intention.
The drive. Yeah. And
so with that, I'm going to advance the clock, and anytime the clock advances and a scene changes, we have the opportunity to manipulate our friction clocks. So this is what I've decided. If a tag is assigned, we advance our friction. If we end essentially a storyline, such as the Golden Woods War, we clear a clock entirely. But just anytime a tag is assigned to a main central player character, then we're going to advance our friction clocks forward. In this situation, I'm going to assign the tag of the Sword of Justice to Sir Trist Raven, said with my purely authentic Portuguese accent. I lived in Brazil for many years. But this is going to advance our war clock 1. There might be some repercussions in the Emerald West. We don't know just yet. And we advance our story clock forward 1, so we are close to finishing the story of the war. And then, so now we have a tag that's been given to Sir Trist. She has the sword of, or they have the Sword of Justice now, which can be exhausted to do massive damage or to scare people away. Or we might be in a situation where we're looking to someone to judge wisely, and you can exhaust that tag and it'll modify the roll. And so now we can set our next scene. So that was simply one scene that we'll play through tonight. And who would like to set the next scene?
I think I have a scene I would like to set. So, last time we saw Antimony and Sir Kathleen and Sir Helena and the Boy King Julian. They were leaving the Intramuros to travel, I think, either back to capital or north to meet. I think they were actually traveling directly back to the edge of the Golden Wood, the edge between the Golden Wood and the Marmors, to the hill there, trusting that the diplomatic group of squires would return to Sir Daniel to also make sure that Sir Daniel and Chef Ophelia arrived. And I think this is on the way there, perhaps one night while they're around camp. And I would like this to be perhaps initially between Chef Antimony and the Boy King, Julian.
Okay.
Julian
surprise tonight. Yeah. Tonight I was going to declare myself as Jolly. Jolly will have stats. Not only that, I want to explain that Jolly has full intentions, because I think it's important to make Jolly's intentions known, of claiming the throne as soon as they end up in capital. Just punt Sir Daniel off. And Chev Antimony may know this. You've noticed for a peaceful boy that studies at a university, they seem to have an awful large collection of knives and daggers and other somewhat exotic weaponry. But every now and then they flourish.
Oh, Lord.
They're just like baseball cards, that's all.
He's a pointy boy.
Oh, God. This is fine.
Pointy boys can be good boys.
All right, we can set this scene. So let's start it off. It's a personal relationship scene. Are there any stakes? So do you stand to gain or lose anything? And I think I've figured out, just to explain mechanically, the difference between a question and a question being asked and stakes. Stakes are always quantitative. Questions can also be qualitative. So the answer, what color will the dress be, is not a quantitative, there's no stakes in that. However, it's a quality. We might want to learn something. We want to learn about the Raven's personality. But do you stand to gain or lose anything in this scene?
I think Antimony, what I wanted to explore with this scene is the what Jolly has been learning at the Intramuros and the influence that the Antimony papers and their current philosophy on the state of the land royal, how much influence that has on the Boy King and the state of the land going forward.
Okay. So here's what you'll know. We can play the scenes to find out, but you will most certainly find out Jolly's opinions on the land royal, as well as what they've been learning in the Intramuros. I believe the foreground of this scene, I'll allow you to set it, but if I understand correctly, it's going to be the conversation. The focus is going to be on Jolly and Chev Antimony. And then we want this a night around campfires. Anyone else there?
I think it can start with Antimony and Jolly, but there are others traveling with them, and they are present. They can be present to hear, to overhear, to enter. I leave it open to Sir Kathleen and to Sir Helena, who we've established are with them.
Yes. Yeah, Sir Helena would be there. Sir Catalina and Sir Helena are stealing time together. No.
That's what. I was like, that's what's happening right now. They're busy.
We're busy.
It's so hard to be the perfect knight. All right. So, and then we've determined the questions. Are there any conflicts in the scene, intrinsic or extrinsic?
I think the extrinsic conflict is how we're going to move forward in the future negotiations with the Goldenwood, and perhaps Jolly is still yet undecided on what they think they should do going forward.
I just saw that raise the stakes in chat. Goodness gracious. And so now that we've okay, so we know that intrinsically, I will tell you this: Jolly is struggling with trust. Currently, Jolly feels Antimony is someone that they can trust. However, while they feel that way, they've read these papers, they've studied at the same university. They're not too sure if meeting one of their heroes is all that it's cracked up to be, seeing how being an heir to the throne, they've learned that their life very well could be in danger, to the point where we have a dying sovereign, the Thorn Knight, Laird Danielle, right now sitting on the throne. So now we can play to find out the answer. So I'd like you to sort of direct and set the scene and, describe it to us. What kind of location are we camping in? Who's currently nearby? Currently, we know it's the two of us. So set the scene for me. And anyone can add to this.
So I think it's the scene starts when we come in. It's Antimony sitting by the fire, a small little notebook in their hand, and they are making notes in it, kind of absent-mindedly, and then Jolyon approaches and takes a seat, and initiates conversation. Yeah.
Okay. So that's what they do. And I'm going to use an example of fiction weaving here. So you can't see my scores, but Jolly presents the Antimony Papers, which is now fictionalized in the world. Has a crown value of 3. So it's a 3-point paper. And Chef Antimony, I've been meaning to ask, what prompted you to write such a work?
There, in the fiction weaving, am I allowed to up the
Yes.
weight of that still?
Any player can add points from their pools into this to make it even more important or different aspects. So I added 3 points to crown. So this is seen as a political document. It influences rulers and kingdoms.
I would like to also put 2 points of passion into it, to give it some philosophical weight.
Cool. That works.
It is both a statement of political theory and policy, but also a piece of philosophical, like philosophical treatise on the nature of rule.
Okay, so that works. So we take these points, and now we have emotionally charged this document. And Jolly presents their copy to you, and sits there, listens to you talk about it. And
I'll say it was. I started these papers some years ago during my early days as a Knight of the Crown, seeing the turmoil that was arising in the land from the misuse and the misguided thoughts of some within the church, and the ways in which issues seem to spring up, schisms and rebellions and an insurrection based on the thought of divine providence. And I think that a good ruler, a true ruler, finds strength not in divine purpose, but in ethical practice, in a connection between themselves and the people, and understanding the rights of each individual within the land, and not just those who wield power. We have, as knights, as sovereigns, as people of influence, we have a duty to the world around us, to make it better. And that duty comes not from above, but from within, from our own connection to the world around us.
you know, Jolly has listened intently, almost unblinkingly. Though you stand much taller than them, they seem to look straight forward. So in order to make eye contact, you know, they lift their head up at all. Yeah, even still, small frame. It's one of those things. Jolly seems to almost force as an unspoken power play that people have to make the effort to look them in the eyes. And they listen very, very intently on every word. And they seem to nod, and they ask you, what kind of king, what kind of sovereign would you have me be?
One who understands the weight of their decisions. I would see you a strong and good sovereign, one well-educated and not distant from those over who you rule. To be a good ruler, I think one must understand the land around them, understand why people make decisions that they do, like those of the Golden Wood, why they chose to rise up, why they have the anger that they do now.
Jolly, very... yeah, go ahead.
Understanding this will make you a good ruler, understanding why people act and behave and the reactions that causes what they do.
Jolly speaks up immediately. Oh, I know very well why they rebelled. It's because my sister didn't listen to them and hadn't listened to them for years. Then we gave away their lands, their sacred lands, to the Lunar Republic. We've been breaking the backs of House Wolf and those like them and the Marmors and the Golden Woods for nearly a century now. Eventually that weight is going to collapse and crack that back. I may be young, but I know my history. And I have seen things. Chev Antimony. Jolly begins to speak very frank. Jolly begins to open up on things that maybe it would be unwise for Jolly to talk about. Do you prevent them from saying this and stop them from confessing things that they know? Or do you let them continue? Because knowledge is power, but knowledge is also dangerous, and you will be burdened with whatever knowledge they speak.
I let them continue. I do not wish to stifle them. I think growth only comes through discourse.
There was a time, Chev Antimony, when the royal line was pure. When the royal line served the people and existed to serve the people. However, under a cloak of deceit, dragons and lions made deals together. Dragons and lions, Chev Antimony, murdered their siblings. Dragons and lions turned this land from a land royal into a land corrupt. And this is the greatest secret of all. One walks among us who has a voice that knows the truth. Or did, until my sister had them killed. And I know this. Jolly starts opening, almost weeping. I've carried this weight for a long time. I wasn't supposed to know. But it was a decision they made so that I might sit on the throne. The Antillier prepared the throne for me, but it was never mine to sit on. And if I sit on it in shame. And with that, Jolly kind of like bursts into fierce tears and kind of jets off into the night. Do you follow?
Yeah. I'll follow the boy.
Okay. I will let you sort of continue it from there, because they've sort of unleashed a bunch of weight.
That is a heavy burden to bear, But there is a duty that we still hold to the people, even if it is not initially ours to bear. It is the position that we are in. And if the true heir is dead, then the land must stay strong. We must keep it right. And this was made of no decision of your own. This is not your weight to bear. But it is your position to make it better. To work in spite of this, to be the best sovereign that you can. And I have faith in you, Jolyon. I have faith that you will be a good king, that you will do what is right for your people.
Jolly sobs just sort of like this long release and kind of weeps quietly and just has to, all that emotions pent up in them, and so they just have to get it all out. And so they sit there for a while sulking. Is there anything else in this scene that occurs or you want to make note of? Or have you found answers you're looking for? If there's other answers you're looking for, let's keep playing till we find them.
No, there is now a mystery that Antimony is interested in. But this is not the emotional place to continue to speak with Jolly about that. It is the place to console now the Boy King, to make sure that they are emotionally prepared for the negotiations that will happen in the coming days with the Wood King.
Okay. So if we feel that it's appropriate, I'd like to give you a tag where I'm going to give you the tag burdened with knowledge. Antimony has this burden now.
That's fairly apropos.
Yes.
Oh. Well, if they hadn't already disavowed themselves from House Dragon, this might move them towards that. They change my passion scores as well.
Yeah, and so those points are out there, and we can add to our working document as well. Just below the knights, we'll kind of add fictional things right above it. So I'm going to add fictional elements, the Antimony papers, 3 crown, 2 passion. So those papers, I mean, there could be a campaign 50 years from now and those papers come back. They're out there in the world. Joe, why don't you take a turn to set a scene? It can be anywhere in the kingdom. The only rule is it has to... Well, it doesn't necessarily have to feature any of the knights. It can feature other world elements if we'd like it to.
Sure.
But it's good if it features knights.
So to get a sense of where everybody is, Sarah, Cataline, and Chev Antimony are traveling with the Boy King, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then all those diplomats and squires are now hanging out in the woods with the Raven. And they were on their way to go negotiate for the Golden Woods War. Is that the situation, as I understand it? Pardon as I'm trying to catch up.
The squires were to return to capital. You found them on their way back to capital. They were to relay the date of the negotiation to the Laird, Sir Daniel, and let Sir Daniel know when that negotiation was going to happen. And they would you probably could get that information from them as well.
And the individual that would be looking for them is actually Chef Beatriz. If the battle went poorly last time, Chef Beatriz would have arrived during it. But since it went well, she's trying to track down
where they are.
The squires, yes.
Okay.
Since Orphelia is busy with Daniel.
Sure. Okay. I would say we can perhaps drop in on them making their way back after they've had their time to rest. And the Raven would have agreed to take them to capital and assist basically as like a paid escort to help if they need a little more muscle and another sword on hand in case they run into further trouble. As far as I think, because the Raven is interested to find out what the basis of this whole mission was and what the state of things are at the capital. So, yeah, I think the question is,
the Raven comes to capital.
Yeah.
So where would you like to say? Yeah. So your question is to learn. So here's the real question, because we as players might know the issue. So the question might be, can the Raven be persuaded to side with the crown?
Yes.
So that might be the question. I think the stakes, as I interpret them, and anyone could correct me if I'm wrong, are essentially they either gain or lose the Ravens' alliance in support in this situation. There really is no one that sits on the throne. There's a knight that placed themselves on the throne, or became Laird. There was an assassination attempt, which you, as a character, might have some information about, seeing how it was a different Raven Knight that made the assassination attempt. So what would you really like to be the focus of the scene? What characters or elements of the story? Where would you like it to take place?
I think perhaps it would be good to let Chef Beatriz finally find them, and perhaps meet up with them along the way. So we have names. Sorry, I'm learning them all.
No, it's okay.
Beatriz was there, right?
Beatriz, Epictetus, and Dionysidoros, yeah.
Okay. Dinosaur. I think that group from before, we can probably carry on with those folks in focus. And Christina is there, as always, ever following the Raven, whether they want.
So excited to go
not.
back, yeah. They're hanging back. They're hanging back with or actually, they're trying to chat up Beatriz as much as they can, because the Lost Ones, we describe them. They are, sun-kissed, beautiful, vibrant. They are, special and unique in the land royal. There are very few people like them, and Christina is just like fascinated that Beatriz, one, speaks their language, because none of the other Lost Ones did 4 or 5 years ago. 2, is a squire now, legally. 3, was invited to a ball, and so Christina's just like, oh my gosh, you are so cool. So I imagine the scene takes place, though. Beatriz has met you on the road. just before Capital. And as you approach, her sword is drawn but not raised. There's a familiar look in her eyes that pierces right through that cloak of yours.
I think
and she sizes up the group.
Yeah. I think the Raven will stop and kind of just put a hand up to the rest to call everyone else to a halt, and will not move, and just will watch back with golden eyes.
Beatrice calls out and explains that this timing is very opportune, and what business has the Raven in Capital today?
Merely completing a job. I found your lost squires.
To which we are extremely grateful. And I see you found yours. Her eyes meet Christina's. Christina, as flabbergasted and enamored as she was with Beatrice, is equally as enamored and flabbergasted by Chef Beatrice. Chef Beatrice is a very striking figure. She's tall, slender. Her hair has silvered through the years. On her brow sits wisdom, in her arm strength. And she has fought in many wars. She has mentored many knights. And although she is beginning to age, she does not ride as though she has. She looks out over the group and she asks, would you be willing to take another job? Or are you quick to depart?
It depends on the manner of work.
Similar line. There has been some complications. I know your blade. I know your prowess. And I know your capabilities. We are in need of allies. And you are in need of friends, though you may deny it.
The Raven will shift their weight from one foot to the other ever so slightly with that single laugh. I may be persuaded.
What is the price to escort a king?
Do you speak of the boy king?
They are the only one.
Are they?
What's
a really exorbitant price in this day and age?
Well, as a knight,
how does one ask for $1 million?
Give me 245 cows. there's okay, so exorbitant price. Essentially, what you do is, here's how I imagine. Let's talk about how we envision it. In fact, this is an excellent time to introduce a little bit of fiction weaving. So what we're going to add to this is what I'm going to call the Royal Treasury. The Royal Treasury is it's part glory, because being wealthy, there's a lot of good things there. It's also political influence, and it's also many people like money because they can spend it on their friends, they can spend it on their loved ones, they can take care of themselves. So I'm adding to the game the Royal Treasury, and anyone can add to the weight. So currently it has scores of 1 across. So crown 1, passion 1, glory 1, and you could ask for a certain percentage of the Royal Treasury, knowing that there are many knights in the land, but none have access to that. Although I'm certain Sir Daniel was helping themselves to handfuls of it.
Oh, probably.
10% tithe.
Okay. So how much weight did we put into the royal treasury? Sorry.
Right now it has scores of 1 across. Yeah.
1 across. Okay.
I will.
I think.
I'll put a point of glory in to raise it up a little bit.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think it is glory.
I have some glory to spare.
Imagine you kind of hand wave. It's one of those things where maybe you pull out a gold coin and then an abacus. point.
I'll drop another point of glory into it.
Ooh, I like this. Wealthy. The banneret. Beatrice's eyes widen. If the sword is for sale, I invoke my powers of attorney to grant the wish. And they pull out, or she pulls out, a parchment and a ring. She turns the ring on the palm of her hand till it slices just barely. The inside of the signet fills with blood. She stamps the letter, and she points to the it would be Diana Sidoros. Deliver this to the Dark Gate and let them know the Raven has earned a pension. It is endorsed by the Crown.
Yes. Okay, the Dark Gates, endorsed by the Raven, going to the Crown. No. Okay, no, I got it. I'm just kidding. You know, I'm a good ambassador. It's fine.
Yeah, no. Epictetus is like, yeah. Beatrice suddenly has flashbacks of when the time she assigned Sir Donald to go to the Black Gates, and he was just like, well, I'm gonna stop by this bakery on the way because something.
Wow, we have very competent folks here. Yep.
Yes. So Beatrice makes it so. Yeah, so Epictetus departs from the scene. Beatrice asks, are you ready for the journey, or is there anything else you require?
As ready as anyone shall ever be. Thank you for your generosity.
She says with a sigh, she hesitates to thank you. You can tell she's thinking about someone else right now as you thank her. But only you notice this. Only a knight trained as the Raven. Only a knight that has the gift of discernment to pierce Beatrice's icy gaze knows that she was thinking about someone else. And she gives away to you in her immediate reply, thank you, Sir Triste du Raven, Banneret. And with that, you're free to play out the scene anymore. If you feel you've gotten the answer you want, we can move to tags.
I think we can proceed onward because it sounds like they're going to capital or going to find a king to escort.
Yeah, they'll all, the whole group, Cataline, Helena, and Chev and Timony, will arrive shortly, depending on whether or not Sir Cataline goes, hold on, we need an hour and a half romance scene right now. No, so that proceeds. So that scene plays out, and I'm going to give the tag Filthy Rich to the Raven. because it's going to be one of these things where, because it's like you now have access to that thing. And it's one of those things, and this happened in the Musketeer novels, by the way, where D'Artagnan is suddenly rich and can't even sleep at night, just sits there staring at the pile of money on the dinner table. It's like, oh no.
With all of this money.
Yes. So, yeah, filthy rich. I like that, because there may be a time where it's like, would you know? And it's just going to be like, throws a massive... the Count of Monte Cristo did this as well, where it's just like, no, I am buying your house. Whatever.
Oh, yes. Don't worry. Yes. The money will be used.
All right. So, Jess, playing Sir Cataline, it's your turn to set a scene. Any scene you'd like to see played.
Oh, buddy.
Woo-wee.
I think Sir Cataline is now aware of Helena's sort of hero worship complex, but doesn't quite process what exactly that entails. So I would say they were stealing a moment together, but we wouldn't pursue anything.
That's fine. No, okay. Yeah, and you can play it however you want. If you want to deepen a relationship with Sarah Helena, the perfect knight, by all means.
We are getting romantic.
I'm absolutely like I can't deny it. It's a relationship scene, and I just want a quick one. It won't be an hour and a half, promise.
Oh, fine.
Not a CW premiere.
You leave me so disappointed, says Sarah Helena. I had such hopes for us. Oh, just like Sir Cataline, the captain of the knights. No. Nah, it's fine. So, all right. So, where does this scene take place? Is it on the journey? Is it later? It may be that after we've met up with the Raven and everyone else and we are on the way. It may be when we're at the Golden Woods. It could be just before the negotiation. So, you can say how much time has passed.
Ooh.
And a slow burn going on.
Or it could have been at the same time I was having the conversation with Jolly, or...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was definitely imagining it was the same time Jolly and Chev and Tony were talking.
Okay.
And
there's a reason you weren't there for my scene.
Yeah. I would have had too many words to say, so I was distracted at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened closer to nighttime, if I remember.
It could have been, yeah. It's a nighttime scene, so
okay.
Around a campfire.
Great. Not a dark and stormy night, but brisk. I would be casually walking, maybe not gearing myself to touch shoulders with Helena. I have my new companion of the road, Farkas, trotting along between us. Idly petting him as we walk. And so Kathleen will acknowledge Helena and be like, you have risen further than I had ever expected when you originally started trading. I can say I'm proud of what you've done.
She takes the compliment and speaks somewhat softly that she had a great teacher. It's in reference to you. However, rising was not the goal. Service was always the goal, and that you taught her that.
Indeed, you're correct. The ranks happen, and they unfold no matter what. Politics will make it dirtier, but I'm glad you've stayed true to your conviction.
It is the only life I've known, Captain. It is the only life that I can live. I have taken oaths. They're very serious to me. And you can tell there seems to be something slightly bothering her, as if she is burdened She's troubled slightly. But she seems to be holding back slightly.
I'll kick a passing pebble as we continue walking. And I sigh. Ever since we spoke to the princess, I've been thinking. I've not fully acknowledged my absence. I was too focused on the roads, too focused on the wars in front of me, and I've neglected my people. I'm sorry if that placed extra burden upon you.
Your people love you, Sir Cataline. Your people will follow you, and they would accept you as queen. They would accept you as their leader. I do not think they'll accept Jolyon D'Estelle. I do not think they would accept Rosary D'Estelle. I do not think they will accept the crown. And it is treason for me to speak this, and it breaks my heart, and she just kind of, she's torn between her duty to the crown and the duty to her family. I'm sorry I spoke out of turn. Forgive me.
All is well. We are here as wolves, and truths need to be said. I acknowledge this. It is disconcerting how many paths and how many titles have gotten in the way. I'm not the one. You say they want to follow me, but who am I to rule a nation?
You're the best teacher. You were their defender when they needed a strong arm to protect them. You have keen ears and are a good listener. You also have a kind demeanor. And you are the only one that can speak with eagles, dragons, and lions equally. That is who you are. And I wish you would see it. She kind of stops.
Cataline will stiffen a little at that, with the lens placed on me. Though that may be true, ruling a nation involves so much more formal training and subtleties and politics. It just seems so dirty.
Then what? You're true, she says, and she kind of steps closer. She goes, what if we stuck Anna on the throne? My fear is if we push for their allegiance to the crown, they will go to war with us unless we have wisdom beyond that which we are capable of. We are wolves. We are followers by trade. We choose an alpha and we follow that alpha. To be fair, the alpha is normally way in the back. But that's how wolves travel. Sorry, I'm going to get into all this biology. But, the alpha's way in the back. Yes, the alpha's actually way far away in the very back, making sure everyone else goes. Actually, we'll play that. We'll play the biology into this.
Yeah.
Weaker wolves march in the front, with the bravest warriors standing behind them. The rest of the pack follows and are protected by the brave. And in the distance, there is an alpha. Perhaps that alpha needs to be whoever sits on the throne in capital. But we need strong wolves to stand with the people. Perhaps if you would agree to stay with the people during a time, they would accept the terms more easily.
That seems plausible. I when the princess mentioned me taking throne, I don't understand. That would be too opposite of what I am. I would forsake the country and my duties as captain towards the capital. None of that would coincide with being the crown, and it was just too much.
Yeah, she comes in a little more closely, and she's kind of idly petting the dog too. Every now and then her hand kind of lightly brushes past yours, not really intentionally. And, if you notice it, she'd probably be a little more cautious, even though she is the perfect knight. She just kind of says, uncharacteristically, less formally, more casually, listen to us. We're a couple of conspirators now. And she kind of says that with a giggle. She's like, we casually play games of treason. How the world has changed.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's needed. I've had many discussions in the past several years with regards to morality, spirituality, and clearly we are in a time of strife. So perhaps treason is not morally wrong if it fixes the nation. And while we kind of settle into this conversation, I imagine we've found maybe a flat stone, like a bedrock of sorts. And I would invite her to sit back to back, and we could pet the dog.
Yeah. Oh, little focus. Just kind of stroke. She's kind of itching behind his ear. Really giving him a good rub as we sit back to back. And she listens.
What about you? Where do you see yourself in all this?
I've been asked to stand as an exemplar. I've been asked to become a symbol. Not just for wolves, but for the other knights. I've been asked to ride gallantly into battle. I remember raising an army to face the dragons, to face the West folk, when they rebelled several years ago. I was so young then. She kind of stops and she thinks back. She would have been about 17 at the time. Now she's closer to 20. And she says, I've given my life to service. And I am prepared to either die swiftly in the next conflict or to live and die slowly for 20 or 30 more. However, just know, Sir Cataline, as captain of the knights, I will follow you to whatever end. And, she kind of, leans in and she says, she trails off and it kind of pauses there. I'm going to ask you, scene director, what does she say next?
Oh, that's too much pressure. Oh, man.
I passed the buck.
No.
And if you want, you can end the scene there. And if you want, you can end the scene there. So, and we can answer that question. We can leave that dangling and answer it later. It's up to you.
I bequeath the option of the peanut gallery sitting so patiently over here. My fellow glasses.
I was thinking if I was going to be a little mean, and if things got a little bit more intense, to interrupt and have Antimony and Julian scene interact with your scene, where you hear
them crying.
You hear the crying boy Julian and Antimony going after them, and you hear the tail end of Antimony consoling and raising the spirits of Julian.
The wailing jolly. Yeah, that's good. I dig it.
Okay, I think that's what happens. And as you hear that, she takes your hand and squeezes it firmly and just gives you a look, and and then she lets go and leaves and goes. You know that she is a knight that will follow you. But that is all you know for now. And that is where we'll end that scene and give you the heartbreaker tag. No. No. So, you have a lot of tags. So 1, 2, 3, 4,
I was like,
5,
I thought I've
6.
been using them.
So here's what I'd like us to do. Let's liquidate some of these tags.
Sure.
Which tags, in some there might be some you don't use, such as the celebrity.
Right.
I think I'm going to give you the tag. I'm trying to think. I don't want to just come out and say unrestful heart, but no. I think I'm going to give you. It's one of those things where heart of a knight, just something like that, and then I want you to liquidate some tags and go down to 3.
That's fair.
And so the rest, as you liquidate these tags, they're going to become narrative points that we just put in a big old pool and we start handing out to each other to spend on fictional things in the world.
I was going to ask if I could liquidate them and put them, like, at least some of them towards the royal treasury.
Oh, yes. So go ahead and delete one. And which pool do you want to put it in? This is great. Fill it up with money.
We can take the celebrity one. We love some dirty celebrity money in the treasury.
Okay. Do you want to put it in crown, passion, or glory? It'll be 3 points.
2
you can split
passion, crown.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
But cross it out.
Okay, and then Lord have mercy. I think I will take out the wisest. While other people will view me as the wisest, it's not a tag that I embrace willingly.
Spend it. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to put it more into the royal treasury, or you can also take this as just points and add it to your own crown, passion, and glory to spend later on other queens.
That's just too much power. Come on, Grant.
No, it's fine. We all have the same power. That's the nice thing. It's egalitarian in that view. We all have points that we can spend.
God, let's see. 1, 2. I can't. So I've been hoarding the captain one. I'm like, I am the ancestral blade. Okay, so if I get rid of the wisest, I guess I would take that in passion. Was it 2 points for the wisest?
You'll get 3 points into your passion pool.
Sweet baby Jesus.
Cool.
How many more do we have left?
I was going to ask as well, because I had that thought after we finished the scene with the antimony papers, that would have been a good place to expend my renowned scholar tag.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Because I also have a number of unspent, not nearly as many as others, because I try to use mine pretty regularly.
For sure. Yeah.
But I could I'll expend that to add to the antimony papers, however much that does.
Sure. So you'll get 3 points. You can split it up however you want. And now that we all sort of know how it works, at the end of the session, what we'll do is we'll sort of audit our tags and make sure that we don't have more than 3, and any others we can just liquidate into narrative points or put into fictional things, create new fictional things, etc.
I like that.
Yeah. So that'll be that's what we'll do. Now, I think what we need to do. So, has everyone had the opportunity to set a scene tonight so far?
Yes.
All right. So it's going to loop back around to me, and this is going to be Jolly's scene. So this scene is essentially going to be the negotiation. And the way this negotiation is going to work is this is going to be a societal interaction. It is the leaders of the Golden Woods Rebellion, the Wooden people, the Wooden Knights, Knights of the Golden Wood, are going to be there. We are going to play a tarot card to shake things up. Sorry. There we go. The 10 of Cups. So let's double check. I've made some changes to my thing. All right, so Good old Lion House. That's who it impacts the most. And our lion, outside of Christina, is not there. So let's go ahead and start to divine our meeting of the Ten of Cups. So the Ten of Cups, when it's flipped right side up, represents harmony, happiness, and family. How fortuitous of us. And I believe the way this is received is the arrival of Sarah Helena and Captain Cataline de Wolf. We've asked them to arrive first. And the people are so very proud and happy to see these twin sister wolves who are held in equal esteem and regard. They're viewed as heroes of the people to the point where there is a celebration. During the celebration, there is much festivity, and there is opening of hearts. If you recall, these the wolves, the leader of the wolves, the leader of the
I recall the Golden Woods.
Your brother.
Yes.
Was your brother.
Damn,
So,
Scruffy.
Your brother has agreed to meet with you alone before the meeting of the event. And they let you know that however the meetings go and the peace treaties go, House Wolf must come out strong. And we must make sure that House Wolf is viewed in higher regard, and our ancient ways are respected for the great things that they are. And so that's essentially. And they ask if they'll have your support in this. Sort of a question.
I don't give. I'll look at him tersely and be like, I don't give support blindly. I would agree House Wolf should come out strong, but the means also matter.
I'll defer to your judgment when the time comes. As you can see, these people, your people, think the world of you. And when you speak, they will listen. They are your pack. They are your people. I merely protected them from the invaders. However, we are not sustainable out here. We don't have enough resources and we don't have any allies. A free wolf nation will not last in the Golden Woods unless we have powerful allies back in Capital.
Explain to me the invaders. I was impression while at Capital that we had signed off space for the log to gain money that we owed. I thought it was a peaceful.
Yeah, I totally understand. I totally understand that House Eagle sold our holy ground, that our religious shrines were knocked over, and you had these men of the north, these saboteurs, these pirates, these vandals, desecrate our holy lands, burn our temples, and act very, very violently towards the sacred things of the earth. You know that these lands are sacred to our people.
I see. Well,
this was murder so they could get gain. And there, he's referring to murder.
Yeah.
He views like the tree has a spirit and things like that. He's very much ancient ways.
Damn, where's that guy when you need him? Josiah.
The Grand Josiah? Did you bring him with you? You could have.
I know it. I know Kathleen had recommended it. I don't know if he actually came.
It's up to Cataline, and you can decide. You have narrative authority.
I think Yeah, the last I remember, I wanted Helena and Josiah to come because Josiah kind of volunteered to be like, well, I mean, I gotta speak the language. And I'm like, yeah. I see you're real, fine. Your existence is, it matters.
Thanks.
The dirty hobo.
I like the Josiah.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by him. I'll look at him and just...
The Grand Josiah is that individual you find just playing their guitar by the beach. They kind of have this earthen quality. They're like 90 years old, no shirt on, even if it's the winter time. And it's like, oh, I feel bad for him. It's, nah, I choose to live this way. I got a mansion up the road.
I love him. You'll see a lot of concern wash over Kathleen's face. And yes, you're right. Desecrations. I should have come sooner. I'm sorry.
It was beyond your control, they say, not knowing any conversations you may have had with Sir Daniel or may have had with the Lunar Republic. But we're glad you and Helena's here. How is she? And on that question, I'm not going to let you answer. No, go ahead and answer. Okay. Then I've got to set the scene properly. Yeah, otherwise, I'll go on idly forever.
Right, yeah. Helena's burdened, but she wears that burden very well. She's doing well. She is strong, and as you know it.
I thought of asking her to marry me.
Sorry.
This is like a Disney movie now.
I'm like, oh, Scruffy. Oh, brother.
He kind of says, too, playfully, it's like, I know, and she's out of my league, but doesn't hurt to try. He kind of says, and then he goes, I am king for at least one day more, says with a laugh. Well, let's set the scene properly. So, yeah, you can kind of see how the relationship scene engine's useful, because if you actually set a scene, it has some direction. Otherwise, I'm just like, which imaginary girlfriend do I have today? So it's all right, so this is a societal scene. You're meeting with the Knights of the Golden Wood. The stakes in the scene is you either gain the Golden Wood back as a territory in the Land Royal, or they become an independent state. The foreground is going to be the meetings. It's actually the negotiation, and anyone can be there. And even if the Raven's on the outskirts counting all of their money, which is now it's like Scrooge McDuck money bin that they cart with them in a special wagon. It's like, hold on, I got to take a dip of my money. And
I'll be there momentarily. I need to count my coin again.
Christina, get the abacus.
Yes.
Yes. And then
no, they'll just let Christina count it all for them. That way they can do things and it keeps her busy.
She enjoys shiny objects and counting things.
Yes.
Look, Christina.
She's quite good, really.
I got away from you, I see. The foreground is the negotiation. The background is essentially... actually, I think the foreground really is... It's not so much the negotiation. It's the tension between Jolly sitting on the throne, Ser Cataline's duty to her family and her people, and her independent nation and the crown, Chev Antimony's position as consular. The background's really kind of this whole negotiation, because the real tension is... What does it mean in regards to the interpersonal relationship and drama? The background really is, because at the end of the day, the wolves are going to live where they've always lived. Their tax rate might go up or down, but that's a thing for dragons. The conflicts are really that the wolves and the wooden knights feel extremely disrespected and unlistened to by the crown. There's sort of this extrinsic conflict of they are in rebellion, as well as intrinsic conflicts. Sir Cataline could become a great leader of their people, or become a hero in the eyes of the crown as someone who unified the nation again, a great unifier, a proper peacemaker as well, similar to Antimony in years past. So now we're going to play the scene to determine this. I imagine that this is the heat of the negotiations. Lines are drawn. The most valiant of wolves, the Blood Wolf Knights, the Wooden Knights, House Wood right now, are they've drawn and they are not moving. And the reason they're not moving is because of stubbornness. That's the problem. If you get all these wolves together, suddenly they start, it's like as soon as a negotiation begins, they're like, but can you return the goddess of the harvest to the pantheon of my father's people? And other wolves are like, we removed her by group consent. And just like it's like devolving where wolves are fighting among wolves. They're not even too sure what the Wooden Knights really want. So the scene is set, and I believe in this scene, Jolly has turned their eyes to Antimony to speak the voice of reason. What does Antimony say? And anyone can be in and around or nearby.
He says, I understand that the actions of the crown, the actions of the laird, has caused great strife here in the Golden Wood. Your lands were negotiated without your permission, without your consent. And this is wrong. This was a mistake on the laird. This should not have happened without the consideration of those who reside here. And we, the crown, as I point my hand at, or like kind of wave towards Julian, would like to negotiate on behalf, to make amends, to bring the denizens of the Golden Wood back into friendly relationships with the Land Royal.
Grand Josiah says, what would the wolves require? And they speak up. Athrapas speaks, heavy, thick voice. Our lands require repair and guarding, and it takes resources beyond our own to have that. We would like a portion of the royal treasury committed and dedicated towards allowing our people to preserve these lands and maintain these lands. We would need help. And we are not great builders. However, House Dragon has many great builders. They have extensive contacts with the free people and the guilds, the crafters. And they would be able to help us restore, but those take resources. The Grand Josiah is like, money sounds like a good way to solve this problem. You can solve all sorts of things with money, says the so-called professed prophetic holy man.
I would like to lean down and whisper to Julian, Antimony would, and if anybody's close, they might be able to hear what Antimony says to Julian. But Antimony says, House Eagle and the church have long had a bit of exemption to the royal tax based on their religious standing. If the crown were to recognize the religious standing of those of the old ways here in the Golden Wood, the same sort of exemptions can be granted to them to give them greater resources without unduly taxing the direct treasury. It keeps more money in the Golden Wood.
We categorize them as a 501c3 organization, a charity, they say, and they point up. I suddenly go back to all this legal knowledge.
What Anthony's actually saying is an official recognition by the crown of the religious merit of the old ways. More than it's even more political than just the money. It is a tacit approval of the religious movement and the religious freedom of the country instead of being wholly under the Church of Light.
It's true.
Which is one of the things that Timothy's been working towards very slowly.
Interesting, yeah. The Church of Light has those two schism churches that the wolves kind of created that broke off, where they have those two fake churches. And then, so they look at that. And so Jolly says, he goes, religious freedom, tax exemption, and they still remain the tax collectors. They'll probably go for it. Jolly speaks up with his young voice, bright eyes. But this is going to be a check for Chev Antimony. You're going to get... you essentially have a negative modifier because Jolly is so young, speaking to, a practically middle-aged gent of House Wolf. So there's going to be a -1 going into this, but the task difficulty starts at 10 because that's how deep this threat was going into the revolution.
Okay. Well, I am Antimony is educated, if that plays in, and or disciplined.
Those both count.
And because this has been part of Antimony's long-term plan and moves against the church, I would like to expend my patience.
That'll add 3.
Specifically towards this, which was these long-term actions. So that is patience, educated, disciplined, and I will put 3 points of cerebration towards it.
All right, so that puts you at 8?
8, yeah.
So you need a 2 or higher?
Smash.
Let me see.
And it's 0 through 9 on the die.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Trying to roll. Yeah, how do I do this? Because I was trying to use Fantasy Grounds more to roll.
Yeah. So either grab a D10 and roll it, or roll an actual die, and it's fine.
Okay, let me roll an actual die.
Well, we'll have little Cup of Joe roll for you, please. Roll the dice for us, sir, please.
You know what that's inviting, don't you?
Yes.
A 0.
Oh, I forgot. I wanted the outcome uncertain.
Yeah. What are the modifiers we need here?
+8.
We need 2
Plus
or more.
8.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we have +8 to it.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Nope.
We got a 9 out of 10.
You failed by 1. Jolly speaks. They say, we'll agree to these terms, but we require that we make the wolves look strong in this. We would like for the people to think this is resolved not through difficult to understand political theory, religious doctrine, philosophies that are emerging, pseudo-prophets and the kind of the Grand Josiah. We want the champion of our people to duel the champion of your people. We'd very much like to see Sarah Helena and Sarah Cataline face off sword to sword. Not in a fight to the death, but a fight to submission. Would you agree to that? It would give the people some spectacle. and a wolf will look strong. They worship both of them. So it's going to be Antimony can agree, or Sarah Cataline also can consent or deny.
Should have been standing.
In Julie.
Oh, poor Jolly.
Oh, kiddo.
So Kathleen was just standing off to the side, arms folded, listening intently, and upon hearing a request of a challenge against Helena, I look back and forth between Helena and the one who proposed it, and I'm like, really?
It's your brother.
What you guys desire, really?
Well, if you're not going to let him marry her,
selfish.
you know his play.
I can entertain such a moment, should Helena want to.
All right, so there's a big announcement, big fanfare. There's going to be a dramatic battle between Cataline and Helena. Do we want to play out this scene, or do we want to move to other scenes in between that combat?
I'm totally fine with skipping the combat if you guys have other scenes to go to. I'm ready to pop a tag, roll dice, dramatically not kill her.
No, it's not fight to the death. Yeah. Or she's intent on dramatically not killing you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's gonna kneel before me and for like the second that she is.
She's pretty convinced that she'll be called captain after this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, snap.
Even if it's only by
young
you.
ambition, boy.
Okay.
Content warning, Grant Ellis is playing the game. So
Goodness me.
Oh my gosh. This is not sponsored by Monster Energy. Okay. Yeah, so do we want to do the fight scene, or Antimony or Therese can also take a scene before that if they'd like. If not, we'll just go sword to sword.
Yeah. Well, all of this has been going on. I think the Raven has basically been standing as a guard near Jolly and has basically just been looking like a very frightening black statue. Taking all of this in.
So, Therese, Joe, you probably would have heard what Antimony was saying too. Yeah.
So you're standing on one side of Jolly. Helena's always standing on the other side of Jolly. You guys are just like statues. Murder statues between this sad boy.
Yep.
Chef Beatrice is watching from the other side. Just for whatever reason, the Wooden Knights let her stand over there, and she's just been like 2 eyes on the Raven the whole time. It's like this.
Yeah, you can't. There's never any indication of what kind of expression is going on there. You just see these real scary golden eyes under that hood and mask.
The mask, and it's just kind of like
they seem to glow a little under the shadow of the hood sometimes when the light hits just right.
So, Sarah Catalina, are you prepared to draw your sword, or are we moving to a different scene? If you draw,
I'm always prepared to draw my sword.
Fight!
Which of you attempts the first boat? So here's how I imagine it is. So they've taken you out before the people. Many of the wolves are there. And they've announced that the unification will be determined by combat. They don't announce who is fighting for which side. At the end, after everyone settles down, they've decided whoever wins the combat was fighting for the crown.
The result regardless.
Yeah, so it's almost like a fixed match in that regard. The crown will win, but there'll be a hero of the people, and they'll make sure the people can celebrate. There's a meet and greet, I'm sure, opportunities to get your photo taken with the different knights, all sorts of things like
VIP
that.
tickets.
So, yes. All right. Somehow Ja Rule is involved. No,
please.
Holla. I did several movies with him. But Sir Cataline, do you strike the first blow or does she? So you both sort of take and square off. This is very traditional. Are you dressed as normal knights in your armor, or is there ceremonial garb that the wolves have you put on?
Fuck yeah, there's ceremonial garb on top of that armor. It's
All
totally
right.
furs and shit. Almost
Furs and
like
shit.
yeah, sorry. I'm descriptive. No, I'm picturing more like we painted our faces like Princess Mononoke style.
Cool, yeah, we're all
wearing
we're
Got,
sonning it up. Clay
Yeah.
Got like
mask.
some woad going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sarah Helena, her colors, you notice that she's picked contrast whatever you've gone for. So what color makeup are you wearing?
A deep crimson toward the face, all the markings.
So she's wearing kind of like, you notice it's very elegantly put on, but kind of like almost a brighter green. So it's a dark green. It matches kind of the same values, but you know, you have crimson, so she has green.
Yeah, and the furs that I wear are very dark, very.
Hers are very
almost
light.
black. Yep. As we square up, I imagine we start circling each other, not casting the first blow yet, and I kind of jibe her and I say, "The green flatters your eyes, young one."
That takes her off guard. So this is going to be a check. Yeah, just roll a 10-sided die if you want to add any attractive qualities. Go right ahead.
Oh no, my attractive qualities happened when I hit. Yeah, I'll just roll straight. Yeah, okay.
All right.
Whew. That is a 2.
All right. So you flatter Helena, and she kind of blinks at you with her, very vivid eyes. And then with perfect grace and form, she disarms you.
Mother.
She motions for you to pick up your sword, and she says, "Gather your blade. Take all the time that you need."
Oh, how the youth are arrogant. I see. All right. You do not want to joke around. You take this seriously. I understand. I'll kick up my sword as gracefully as possible.
I'm not going to make you roll for that. I'm going to say you do because I don't want to be like, knock off your wolf head. Hey, wait, stop. Everybody just stop. And you pout and walk away. No, yeah. And so
the real brooding happens. Oh.
So, yeah, Helena kind of waits for you to make a move. What do you do?
I will therein. I will widen my stance. I hold both hands at the blade. I hold my blade out in front of her. And she can see it's a very specific stance from one of her sword forms that I last taught her. It was that epitome of teacher and student moments. And I will start making the motions of that form. I'll start lecturing her, and I'm going to spend the tag mentor.
Okay. That'll add 2 to the roll.
And
so raid from Unmade Mike. Mike, we were just talking about you the other day. It's good to see you. Unmade Gaming.
Times.
Check him out.
Good
He's been on Encounter Roleplay since the channel started like 3 or 4 years ago. So, good pal of mine. All right. Raise the shields, or raise the barrels, or raise the swords. Whatever we have on this one. There's so many different ones. Raise the little cup of joes.
All the things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to expend my mentor tag. And also my matriarch tag.
You can only expend one tag.
Damn it! Okay, fine. Yeah, I'm greedy. Okay, I shall spend the mentor tag, and then I shall spend. Oh, fine. I do have valor. I will spend one valor, one dashing. Is that allowed, or is one of one?
Nope. You up to 3 from one pool.
Okay. No, I'll just do. Gosh, I dice. I'll spend 2 out of valor.
So this is a difficulty of 12 at the moment.
Ugh, Jesus.
Remember, this was a tough challenge. So this is this is a tough challenge
too that you could use. So you
Jesus. Dice. You know what?
Yes, use advantage now.
Screw you, Helena. I'm going to. Yeah, I'll spend 3 then. I'll spend 3 out of valor. I spent the mentor and I'll use the advantage. I really want to put this young one in her place.
2d10. Tell me what you get.
Oh God, please.
What'd you get?
A 7 and a 3.
So
yeah. So
you
hit a 5. You hit 12, right?
Yeah, because you had 3 from your valor plus your matriarch, whatever for the matriarch was.
Matriarch would have only been 1.
Yeah, I just meant mentor. Mentor was 2.
Mentor.
Okay, mentor would be 2. Yes.
Right, and then I spent 3 valor. So I hit. Okay, good.
So you hit 12, right?
Yeah.
So describe the blow that you strike her. Do you disarm her? Do you cut her gently? How do you handle it? Do you drive her through? I'm going to let you decide. Now, she's not out of the game, but you do strike.
So as we're going through this form, she reads it perfectly, and I start going through the song and dance, and she's countering each move, and I quicken a half step, and I adjust the form, and I hit her with the butt of the blade, square up baseball style. I swing it and hit it to the side of her head.
Yeah. Oh, the side of her head?
Yes, the butt of the blade. She's just gonna get a bruise
you can
on
tell.
her head. It's fine.
You can tell. Oh, you can tell that you can see as you're going to strike. She intentionally lowers her guard and lets you strike her. She, almost as if she calls it coming, and as she kind of leans into you as she's been struck hard, she goes, "You taught it to me, but I perfected it." And then she moves to strike you a blow back, just butt of the blade to the side of the head. Do you let it hit you, or do you roll away from it?
I am absolutely gonna dramatically roll away, even if I lose my furs in the roll.
Okay, so make a check. Again, it's difficulty 12.
Can I spend the dashing?
Yeah, you can spend dashing.
Okay, I'll spend 2 dashing. Fuck, I'm sorry. Shoot, dang it, heckin' damn. Dice aren't on my side right now. So 3 with the 2 is only a 5. I'm dodging and I still get hit.
Yeah, so you get clocked and she knocks out a solid... how many points of valor do you have remaining?
2.
Yeah.
Well, not no more you don't. And so she just catches you and you kind of stumble and drop your sword again. And she kind of motions to you. She goes, "Pick it up, but take all the time you need." And you can tell she's kind of woozy like you, to the point where she might almost drop her blade too. The blow you struck her, you hit like a Mack truck when you land. So it's kind of like you are Sir Cataline de Wolf.
The fact
so
that
there's
she's standing is huge. I'm like,
yes,
respect.
She doesn't know where she is, but she's standing.
If someone was in her corner, they probably should have pulled her out. Got it. I will stumble and try to grab the sword, perhaps use the sword to like pick myself up.
Yeah.
Do a little flourish. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, you do a flourish. So it's your turn to strike her, and you can tell your eyes are clearer than hers. Though she has superior form, you have way more passion than she does. And you can tell she's nervous just to be standing across from you.
As she should. Acknowledge my presence. I think I will justify spending some cerebration in this moment for hopefully a last blow. I see the wavering in her eyes.
A calculated blow? Yeah.
Yeah. I will spend 3 points of cerebration to make my mark hit.
You could also you have the resourceful attraction quality. Since you're using like
I keep forgetting how many mechanics we can. Yeah.
So the difficulty to hit her and slay her is 12 in this situation. It's okay if you don't make it. This is essentially the last blow of the battle. So essentially, I don't know if resourceful applies here, because I'm trying to think of, I've been in enough combat where it maybe you can use like the environment to
and I wouldn't like dirt in her eyes or something, so I I guess. All right, so
however, maybe you rope-a-dope her for a little bit or something like that, We'll let you narrate. If you want to add the tag, I would let you. Or apply the quality. I'd let you.
You want a suggestion?
I would love to hear Chev and Timmy's poignant suggestions.
You have one.
Stab her face.
You have a romantic quality that you haven't called before, and like you are widely traveled. Sir Kathleen is. So maybe you know a style or a form that you picked up in your travels that she is not familiar with.
Yeah, 100% works.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I'll show you a new style. 10!
Okay, so did you roll a 10? Because the rolls go 0 through 9.
God.
Yes. So yeah. So you roll a. All right.
I'm
here's how it
about
comes.
foreign ways, and I'm like, I fling my.
You go
sword
to strike her. She traps your arm.
Mother heckin'.
And it came, and she kind of grabs to the point where you feel an intense pain, and it pinches a nerve in a vein to where your hand has to open and drop your sword a final time. And with that, she has you, and then she kind of like squares up and straightens out your head, kind of like with this collar tie, this Greco-Roman technique. She just kind of straightens you out, and she, her eyes meet yours, and she explains how it's almost embarrassing. She goes, "I was your squire when we journeyed there. I may have only been 7, but I studied your movements." And she explains, she was like, the desert swan technique is rare, but effective. And with that, she very, very calmly and kind of almost gracefully, lowers you down to the point where you have a choice to submit quietly in combat, and they're just going to declare that Sarah Helena's the victor, or you cannot submit to the point where they're going to break it up and declare Sarah Helena the winner. But Sarah Cataline will be known as one who does not give up.
Oh, God. Oh,
so it all depends. And this is so you have a choice now. And I want to explain how this works kind of in the fiction. So in the fiction, submitting gives you points with Sarah Helena. She understands that you know the rules of fair play. You're a good sport. You're very disciplined. Not submitting gives you points with House Wolf and the people. You will also be viewed as the champion of House Wolf that never gave up. And for years later, they're going to explain how the crown cheated in the combat and everything like that, right? But this is essentially Sarah Helena's moment. She is the perfect knight. She has bested you in combat. And she's a very difficult foe. Normally, fights aren't this difficult. It's just we let the revolution clock get so far over that it is. So it's your call.
Knowing that the battle was set and we weren't fighting to death, it's a moment of formal combat that is foreign to Cataline in the past, especially in the past like 5 or 6 years. So I think she will acknowledge her defeat calmly, with as much poise as one can be, by being laid down to rest.
The nanosecond you admit defeat, Helena just kind of collapses in your arms, and you can tell she is completely exhausted. It took every ounce of strength she had to restrain you, and it took every ounce of strength she had to combat you. She's completely just finished. She can't fight anymore. So while it may felt like she keeps disarming me, she's besting me, you were actually equals. She was taxed to her limits. So they declare, they announce that Sarah Helena is the victor, and that's where the scene ends.
Can I be the one to pick her up from the battlefield?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. But she leans on you the entire time, and she spent, and the blow that you dealt her was a fierce blow that will take her some time to recover from. So the people rejoice. The Golden Woods War ended with a mighty duel between two elegant knights. Sarah Helena was made a champion of the people. We're going to give some tags, and so some of the tags that we're going to give is we're going to assign to the Raven. Though you rolled no dice and you were very quiet during that, you're kind of we're going to give you the menacing presence tag, where it's kind of like there's a statue in the room, but it's living, and at any point we feel like all of us could die. Antimony, Antimony, we're going to give you the tag the Sovereign's Ear. So when you speak, a sovereign will listen. They will lean in and they will allow you to speak, and they will listen to what you have to say. And Sarah Cataline, what's your mood and what's your feelings to Sarah Helena? Speak plainly. It's your character. Another raid.
Oh, look at the little butts. They're so cute. More Jesses? No, sorry. I'm distracted.
J3.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, jeez. Hi, Jess.
So many Jesses.
Sarah Cataline is, though she acknowledged Helena as the perfect knight, though she acknowledged the praises and the wonder that the people held for her, I was blinded by the fact that I trained her, and I assumed that my veteran status would have easily bested her, but it was not the case in this scenario. So I feel...
What about your personal relationship?
A little miffed, but also proud.
Okay. I think I'm going to give you the tag essentially, there's a better word for this, but it's essentially going to be battle sibling. There may be a time in combat where either having Sarah Helena nearby will grant you a bunch of strength. Either she interferes on and for your behalf, or her being there imbues you with passion and dedication, or you want to just bring her into the combat and just exhaust the tag and be like, she's here now, I brought her in. So you're essentially going to have your deep bond that you've forged with Sarah Helena comes into effect. And that ends the Golden Woods War. They have agreed to rejoin the Kingdom of the Crown. They enjoy their religious freedom and their tax-exempt status. The church is having some issues with this, and the revolution clock completely resets. No more revolution.
Just some damn peace in here. Jeez.
Not till the end of the period of civil strife, which is the end of the campaign. So what we do now when a clock clears out and a major storyline ends, each player has the opportunity to move one of the clocks forwards or backwards. Yes, in Poisel, we do have time for another scene. Absolutely. Speaking of Poisel, how would you like to manipulate these clocks up there?
With the push towards the acknowledgement of the old ways as a religion in the land, that the religion clock, the Inquisition, moves back. It stepped back a little bit.
All right.
Taking some power away from the Church of Light.
Got it. And so, Joe, you have the opportunity to either move the war clock forward and explain how and why that happens, or move the Inquisition clock back.
Can we move the Inquisition clock back further for the same reason, or do we need another reason?
Nope, you don't need a different reason. It's just that's how intense it was.
Sure. I think that sounds fair, because that was a pretty pivotal shift in the paradigm. The church definitely lost some power there.
Yeah, even more. When Sarah Danielle recovers, they're going to be like, my church. They've been replaced by convenience stores. Yes. House Dragon 11. It's Heaven 11. The church is now 7-Elevens.
Oh no!
I'm sorry. I promise not to do it again.
The dragon's flagon, is that what they are?
The dragon flagon. And Sir Cataline.
Between the ambush that the diplomats had, that Triest had, basically annihilated, and between that and what's gone on in the Golden Woods, I would like to think that we are heading towards war. Closer and closer.
It's true. The Solar Empire and the Lunar Republic and the Emerald West all hate you guys, all of you players now. So the West folk have been dealing with you. So the Solar Empire very early on was banished from the lands. The Lunar Republic this past year lost all their territories. So let's sort of talk. Let's move on to a scene. Poisel, go ahead and set a scene for us, and we'll play that one through.
I wanted to have a scene after this, while we're still maybe up in the Golden Wood after this event, after this duel. There's probably some feasting going on, celebrating the perfect night and the unification of the land and all that. I want Antimony to kind of sneak away and find Sir Triest and have a moment with Sir Triest.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think with the festivities going on, the Raven does what they do best and basically tends to loom about the edges. Not eating or drinking where anyone can see, because that would require taking off the mask.
Yes, it would.
They're holding up a tree very well, though.
Yes. I'm trying to figure out. I kind of want to roll with you, just like to see if Antimony can sneak up on Sir Triest.
Okay.
and kind of almost like come out of the shadows like you would.
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
Let me look at some things really quick. Antimony is very graceful, and Antimony has spent a long time as a wanderer. I have to get rid of a tag anyways, so I'm going to just expend this one to call on their time out in the world being a little bit more pedestrian than knightly, we will say. So I don't know what sort of modifiers that'll do, but I guess we can just roll a d10 each and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. I don't know that I necessarily have like none of my attractive qualities really modify that accordingly. So yeah, just do a straight roll of a 10 and see what we get.
Okay. I got an 8 on. All right, here I can use. Ooh. Well, that
got a 10.
But that's a 0, right?
If it's on that one interface, it's 0s through 9s. So I need to make a macro for everyone.
And I rolled on there as well.
I see.
got a 5. Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
So we'll say Antimony comes out of the shadows, catching Sir Triest unawares, and it's just kind of leaning up against a tree next to you. Sir Triest.
Yes.
We've traveled for a moment together now, but I wanted to speak with you privately. You're not the first raven I've encountered in my travels, and I wonder what kind of raven you are.
Are you concerned I may be an enemy?
No, I don't view even those that I've met that I've had quarrel with are not enemies necessarily, but they have different views, and I wonder what yours is.
Chev Antimony, is it not?
Yes.
Once of the dragon?
Once, yeah.
Why did you leave, if I may ask?
My house, the former house, was foolish. They threw in with foreign powers. They helped foment a dangerous and costly rebellion. They sullied their own names, attempted to sully mine, and when I had to take it into my own hands to remove a false queen, I knew that I could not rightfully call myself a dragon after that. Not with the blood of my own on my hands.
No, of course not. You have a clear mind and a good heart, as I see it.
You've seen during the entire time that you've been traveling with Antimony that Antimony doesn't carry a blade anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally they walk with, they have a long stick, like a quarterstaff that they walk with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something of a gentle soul, are you?
I had my training in the arts, but I think there are better ways to solve problems sometimes. You know, last year, during my travels, I met with a raven on the road.
No.
Elisande. Do you know her?
I know the name. What did you make of her?
She is passionate about what she sees as the future of the kingdom, where it is headed, and what must be done to right the wrongs of the houses as she sees them. I find her philosophy, her methods to be a bit too strong for my tastes.
Say again. You got cut off for a hot second.
I find her philosophy, her actions and methodology to be a bit too strong for my tastes.
She is destructive and short-sighted.
Yes. And I fear she will cause more harm than good for her cause.
I expect so. That is her responsibility to bear, not yours.
No. But she is a raven as well.
We are not of one house. I think you know this.
I do. So what kind of raven are you? Zertrist.
Me?
The faceless.
My house is dead, and that is why I am a raven. I am a ghost.
The ghost with the golden eyes.
Indeed.
And what do you fight for, Zertrist? Why do you come here out to these golden woods with your golden eyes?
To watch, to see what the kingdom becomes, and to fight against wrong, as I see it.
What do you see as wrong?
When I see innocent people troubled, when I see the power of the kingdom wielded incorrectly, unjustly, against those who serve it, I see it wrong. When I see lives taken for the sake of greed and power, I see it as wrong. And that is when I raise my sword, and only then.
I think think I would like to travel with you some, Sir Trees. If you would permit it.
I will not stop you.
Our king has to return to the capital, but I have no attachments there outside of when he needs a good lesson in history.
He seems to listen to you. That is something. It is good to have the ear of a king.
It is, but I hope that he grows to question whether I do hope that he will question me in the future, not to disagree, but to learn what the truth is for himself. Not to accept my word or anyone's word blindly.
One can hope. I think by this point, Trist will glance over and notice Christina is having a wonderful time at this party and perhaps is getting a touch out of hand.
Cataline's like, so, speak again. What? Have another quiche, Christina. Oh, they're delicious.
If you will pardon me, I must attend my squire. And there's a decided hesitance on using that word that sort of implies Trist is not willingly taken on this responsibility, but is clearly dealing with it. So,
well, until we can speak again.
Indeed.
And
they will give a bit of a bow.
And Timmy will bow their head and then kind of move back into the shadows.
Then we'll see. Trist will stride on to go collect their squire.
As you are striding on to go collect Christina the Lion, surely of House Lion.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
You notice that entire conversation, not far off, their eyes still on you. Chef Beatrice has kind of been lurking in the shadows, kind of watches you depart. She wasn't listening, but she was watching. She didn't hear any of the words that were spoken, but she was nearby. And with that, I believe what we're going to do now is we're going to play a tarot card because currently there are no major events going on in the world. However, war is about to break out because the war clock has passed a 15-minute interval. And yeah, so we have not the worst war. All war is bad, but this is not the most dangerous
it's a skirmish.
Conflict we could see. Well, it is a state of war. So I've dropped a clock. You notice it has less sides than some of the other clocks. And then we're going to play a tarot. And it's going to be the... I have a spot where I like cards, and then they go, the Ten of Wands. So Wands relates to House Wolf. Surprise! And let's go ahead and divine the meaning of this tarot card. And for those of you watching, we use a tarot deck to cause dramatic events to occur in the land. They usually happen at the end of major stories and storylines. And in this situation, impacting House Wolf, or rather they are the focal point, we see that the burdens and stress, responsibility, and hard work are coming into play of rebuilding the Golden Woods, to the point where there's a lot of strain among the newly returned Golden Woods to the Republic. And there is a lot to be done there. However, there's going to be even more work done as the Lunar Republic on the horizon, in the distance, we see an invading force as...
Which one?
Looks about 9 vessels from the Lunar Republic are sailing in. And these are large warships. Within them is an invading force. And I think that's a good spot to go into our character summaries and talk about how our characters are evolving and changing over the course of the game. So, yeah, let's start with... so next year will be the beginning of the... what we would call the War of the Moon.
Yeah.
And it will probably get a more dynamic name. So why don't you start with Sarah Catalin's character summary, Jess? The Moon Wolf War.
Well,
Yeah.
That for as posturing and calm and collected that Cataline tends to be, this was a little unexpected. It was humbling, and not necessarily in a good way, to be beaten by Helena, but also humbling overall because she was unawares that she felt like she had a moment of naivete because her homelands were desecrated by these foreigners, and she had a hand in enabling that. So in terms of development, she's this was a sad year for her.
Aww. I hope Christina's poking didn't annoy you too much. Apologize for any and all that.
That was
like,
very amusing.
How dare you? Yeah, it's one of those things. Want to check in with you, make sure you're okay, because Christina, as we all know, can be a bit much. And she's just kind of like, she's like, look, I didn't know you could get drunk off of quiche, but my goodness, it's delicious. So cheesy. Drunk off aged cheese.
She's drunk.
Yeah,
Sweet
so it was
girl.
a sad year. With that said, Sarah Cataline's, her prominence and her legend grows. It's one of those things where sometimes you lose, but you come out ahead. Almost the ceremonial passing of the torch to Sarah Helena, the perfect knight, etc., your protege, is that's its own thing. But in the Golden Woods, they explain the way the story is told is Sarah Cataline stood against the entire crown and was the leader of both sides. And they explain how Sarah Cataline mediated the outcome. So the legend is told not that, you submitted in combat, but rather, and there are, to this day, I imagine, stained glass depictions in churches of Sarah Cataline carrying Sarah Helena's collapsed body. So that is the image that remains with the war. So it may have been a sad time, but it was also a time of honor and reverence for Sarah Cataline, who has defended her people for over 6 years now, since taking position with the Knights in the Court of Capital. What of Shiv and Timony?
Shiv and Timony is starting to learn the greater effects of what they've been writing. They originally were writing and speaking and teaching out of kind of younger motives of saving their own words, of kind of putting their own ideas out into the world, but now they're seeing the effects of those on the world, and they are taking more responsibility for those and carrying more weight, especially with this burden of knowledge that they have from the young sovereign, that there is what they write and what they do has consequence. And so the mantle of Raven is also weighing on them a bit in that sense as well.
And I needed to give you a tag for your last scene. It's important that we do that. And I believe the tag that we are going to give is... actually, I'd like Joe to assign the tag. We tried this last time. Based on the way that you played the scene with Chev Antimony, you can provide them a tag.
I think there was sort of an inquisitive nature at play there. So maybe something...
Hi, Inquisitor! No.
I'm not
Not wrong kind of inquisition. I think perhaps like a curious mind or something along those lines might be fair, or seeker.
Pokey noses, jeez. Sorry.
Truth seeker.
Pokey noses. Truth seeker.
Pokey noses is so good. That's going to be the next NPC. Chev Pokey Noses. Well, listen here, Chev Pokey Nose. I love it.
What tag did you give for Kathleen for her end of the year one? I didn't record that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I had an assigned one for that. I'm kind of switching it up a little bit where I'm not sure if every session is 1 year now. I think time is what we make of it as knights and players, where we can explain how much time we feel has passed as needed. So Sir Cataline gets a tag for the final scene that she played in.
Okay. So yeah, that was how Anthony changed over this session. Okay.
And now Sir Therese finally gets to play with us beyond a single dance with a squire.
Yes, finally.
So how did you enjoy the system? How did you enjoy the system, and how do you think the Raven, the banneret, is coming along?
This is interesting. I'm still getting my bearings, but so far so good. Well, I think the Raven has at last emerged from the shadows, so that's a significant change. Because, make no mistake, Triste has been active all of these years that have passed. You just haven't heard about what they're up to. But I think fair. They are, they have stepped out of the shadows and are embedding themselves in this story and trying to sort out who is with whom and on which side to land.
Do any of us want to spend any narrative points to add any fictional elements to the world at this time?
Ooh, that's a good-ass question.
Yeah, because then we have a whole week to think about how we can integrate it. Like, one of the reasons I chose the Antimony Papers is we had mentioned that Jolyon had read them, even as kind of a joke after the end of last session. But I felt it was important. Let's just add those papers to the fiction, and these are a document that they study.
And I updated the fictional element in our doc for the tag I expended for that. So now they are worth 4 crown and 4 passion.
Nice.
Damn, son.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of political influence.
And
so we'll sort of do this. Yeah, we'll do this in sort of a round. So, Jess, Burst of Hope, do you have any narrative points you want to spend to add a fictional element. It can be a person, place, thing, idea, etc.
Can I spend a point of passion to allow my brother to gain some sort of notoriety that would allow him to find a good gal?
So do you want to spin the point to create the gal?
Yeah, mechanically, sure.
Yeah, so that's how it works, and you can do this. Okay. It's like if you want to add a love, like in my example play, when I first play tested this, we added a beautiful diplomat to the court from the Solar Empire who was just an ambassador, but everyone loved her, and knights wrote poetry to her. That she was like a, one crown, three passion, right? So it's like she has some political influence, and it's just she was known as the wooer of knights. So what we will add is the Wolf Bride of Rapace. Add a passion. Does anyone want to add any other points to this figure? And here's all it means. So her value is in relation to any other person that has a passion value. So currently in the fiction, she is more important to probably Sarah Cataline and her family in the Wolf House than any of the other members of Wolf House who are not knights, right? So it's like they have this elevated governess, so to speak. And it may be that this is the new leader. In fact, is this Anna, the Wolf Princess from earlier? Is Anna now the governess of... Anna was good.
Ooh, Anna was good. Anna was earnest. I liked Anna. We can absolutely make it Anna. He can woo an Anna. I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, so I'm going to add Anna, the Wolf Bride of Atropos, governess of the Goldenwood. So she, and we know that she is the lineal wolf, the lineal princess. So if the Goldenwoods had a princess, it would be her. And there was a time when they did. She was the one that recommended they put Sir Cataline on a throne over there. So we know this. And then some of the qualities, some of the advice I give when we do these things is name the thing, explain how it looks if you were to see them, and then what you would feel if you were around. We don't have to do all of that today. But we know now that this character of Anna, who is from years past, is now a part of the world. Does anyone have any other points we want to spend? If not, we can go to outros. Or does anyone want to add the weight?
You gave us too much power too quickly.
Yeah,
we all have the same amount of power.
Not to this element. It's not. It's not within Intimity's
okay.
wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right.
These shadowy figures.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we will. Let's explain how it works. So what you do is you did it just right. You spend a narrative point and it's over. Bloop. All right, so we have it. So hey, I hope everyone who watched the game enjoyed the game today. I know it's a little different, a little different to see. It's it's a system that we're playtesting and evolving out of my weird ideas about game theories and playing games as a group and learning how to play games as a group. Naturally, when it's everyone's first time playing something, it might be a little uncomfortable at first, and we kind of acclimate and adjust. And like most games over time, you just pick it up and play. If you liked it, definitely hit me up on Twitter at WisePapaGrant. I can make sure you have a copy to read. One of these days, maybe I will even release it and publish it. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, let's go around and let everyone know where we can find each other online and how the session went for everyone today. So let's start with Jess. How you doing? How was the game?
I'm good. Yeah, I miss Orphelia. I'm still on the edge of my seat with what's gonna resolve with Sir Daniel. but it was kind of interesting to see like less players meant more breathing room on stream to kind of push the story and push a scene a little bit harder. So that was cool. You can find me at VersaPoop on Twitter and all over the place. So like schedule wise, you'll see me beeping like, go here and I'll GM here and play here. I'm just trying to play a lot of games with a lot of people, and I love all of you. So thanks for having me.
And Little Cup of Joe.
Sure. I'm Jess or Joe. Here I'm Joe. Elsewhere, usually Jess. Little Cup of Joe on Twitch and Twitter. You can find me tomorrow over on my channel running some Ryutama, which seems to be my speciality. And then you can find me later that evening on Anaris' channel playing in a Ryutama game. It's like I like that game or something. It's real weird. But yeah, I think this was super fun. I'm glad to finally be able to join the group. Last weekend was not a great attempt. Thanks, internet ports. But yeah, this was interesting with a smaller group to be able to like kind of really dig into smaller scale scenes a little more and zoom in a little more than what I've seen happen so far. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, the Raven is very spooky.
I like the spooky Raven.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
At least you have that counterweight of the Squire to balance.
Yeah.
That poor little knight.
Christina is a shiny, sparkly disaster, and I love her. Someone protect her, please.
Off probably as soon as Christina gets to Capitol, it's like the theater and like kicks the doors open, front row seats, popcorn, lollipop.
Oh boy, sweet child.
Just bean.
And last but not least, Poisel.
Hi, I am Poisel. You can find me at @Poisel on Twitter and other places, or just Poisel on Twitch. If you want to see me playing some more things, tomorrow at noon Pacific time, I'll be on Uncommon Trust Presents, and we are starting our session 0 of our City of Mist series. So we're doing character creation, where we're actually creating each other's characters instead of our own characters tomorrow. So we're gonna have a little bit of fun with that. It's gonna be good. Check it out on twitch.tv/qtimes. And then coming up on Wednesdays, I'll be playing in a Starfinder game on Twitch TV/ScabbyRooster. But yeah, just follow me on Twitter and see all the things. I do a lot of writing and talk about some queer gaming stuff and all that. And yeah.
Yay.
We definitely appreciate all the work that you do in the community, and that also goes for Joe and Jess. You are all wonderful people, and I'm very privileged to play with all of you. If anyone wants to hit me up, my next convention is most likely going to be PAX East. I will be on 2 panels, one talking about the historical and visual representation of transgender narratives in tabletop gaming, and the second panel will be on playing in your lane, representing identities that are not your own through role play. I've been invited to speak on that panel as well.
I'll be on that first panel with you as well.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely look forward. And so thank you all so much, and have a wonderful evening. Stick around for the next show. Don't go away. Goodbye.